So could you introduce yourself and tell us about your creative practice, please?
Yes. My name is Frank Wurzinger. So I am, as you can guess from the surname, I'm German, but I've lived here a long time, and I am a theatre maker. I make indoor shows, I make a few solo theatre shows, and I perform and teach and direct, and I also perform outdoors. And it's all my work is sort of clown, comedy, physical, visual influence. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Applause commissioned Treefellas in 2019. Can you tell us how you developed the idea for the show and whether you previously created work for outdoors or toured shows as part of the Rural Network?
This was my first commission, my first rural touring piece. I've never toured it before, even though I've done outdoor work. And the idea came in 2019 when in Brazil the Amazon was burning down, and I saw these photos of these beautiful forests with just flames going up, and I was really shocked, and the whole climate thing is just really scary to me. So I wanted to do something fun about it, something upbeat, but also kind of talk about it. And a few years before, I worked with some refugees in the jungle in Calais, and I thought maybe there's some fun in having trees as refugees who are running away, and being upbeat rather than sort of a moralistic educational piece of theatre. Yeah, and then we got going, and I applied, and I invited lots of people, and we started making it.
And so you worked with, did Applause have much involvement with how the show developed as such?
They interviewed me, they asked me to write the idea, they made a few comments, and then they gave me quite a lot of freedom. We chatted in between a little bit, and I had really a lot of freedom to do what I like once they agreed to the idea. Yeah, which was great.
Oh, fantastic. So obviously the show was slightly delayed because of the pandemic, but once you were finally able to tour the show, how did that go, and how did Treefellas evolve over time?
Yeah, so during lockdown, we had lots of bookings for that year, and they were obviously all cancelled. And then we made a tiny 5 or 6 minute film with the 2 trees running around in North London where I live, looking for their baby puppet, and that was really interesting because we had already the first interactions with people and could test out how the trees were perceived, how scary or friendly people would react to them. Yeah, and then we had play dates and got together and sort of had games and structures for them, and took them out and tried it out on a play date, and took it from there really. Yeah. But the show, over the whole summer, the show changed quite a lot and had lots of different colours and tones in it, I guess. So the trees would be scary or friendly or innocent, depending on the crowd and where we were, and
Yeah, and there's a little tree baby.
There's a tree baby. She's called Sapling or Sap, and she's about this tall and has big eyes, dark eyes, and so little children really like her. When they get scared of us massive trees, we get little Sap out, and they love Sap.
Yeah, it's very cute, the tree baby. So you toured to it was Fates and yes. High Street as well.
Yeah,
you did.
To shopping centres. And rural. There was not a lot going on apart from a tiny little festival, which was lovely. To bigger festivals as well. Quite a huge variety of sort of sizes and yeah. Yeah.
Cool. And so moving on from the outdoors show, so then Applause had the opportunity to work with local libraries as part of their summer reading scheme, and Applause asked you to be involved with that. So from an outdoor show, how did you start the process of adapting the piece for libraries, and what was different about the show?
So we thought of libraries, books, paper, trees. There's a link there that the books are made of trees, and the Treefellas come to the library, and And then we employed a third person, so we had 2 trees, and I played a town planner. And I became very strict, and I told them that we are planning this town. And it was kind of a workshop, but I was in character, and we are getting rid of all these trees and building skateboard parks and water features. And then we encouraged the children to dream up their beautiful town, and then the trees appeared suddenly and had a conversation with them and appealed to love nature. So again, we had about 5 or 6 bookings for it, and it changed every time. And it was kind of a workshop where we asked them to participate and be hands-on, you know, give ideas and be creative. And it was led by a character rather than a workshop leader. And yeah, it was really interesting. Some people had never come to the library. Some were regulars, quite a variety of age ranges. And I think people enjoyed looking for the puppet and sharing their ideas. And we had a wishing circle where people could draw their wishes and the trees would make them come true.
So you added the workshop element to it, didn't you? There wasn't the workshop before, and obviously it's a completely additional character, you as the town planner.
Very much, So it wasn't sit down and watch, but it was always interactive with them. I think.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And the trees were playful and naughty with them, and you know. So the idea is that nature plays with us rather than telling them to look after nature. You know?
And so what was the challenges in adapting that piece? Were there particularly any, for example, any sort of strict guidelines that the libraries had? Because obviously they're council run, they have a remit. What did you have to consider?
The challenges for adapting for libraries would be, because of COVID, obviously we had quite limited capacity. People had to be quite spread out. And they all had clipboards, so they could write on their clipboards without touching anything or anyone. That was really well organised. We had Claire Morley, who was running the East Sussex Library, who was brilliant. She was really, her heart was really in it, and she chatted with us before and afterwards. I guess the whole situation coming together again in the library after COVID, after that bonkers year, was maybe people are slightly apprehensive of being in the same space indoors. I don't know, and just the age ranges was quite challenging, and the tree costumes work differently indoors to outdoors. They were designed to be, you know, outdoor festivals. So we didn't want to intimidate with them indoors. But I enjoyed that exchange and getting people to think and dream and play with our trees.
Yeah, fantastic. And so sort of in general, what do you enjoy most about rural touring? And if you were thinking now of people that haven't done, performers that haven't done rural touring before, what would you say is sort of most, what you enjoy about it, what's most rewarding about it?
I think it's brilliant because with Tree Fellas we reached a really big audience. You know, in the same 45 minutes we played to a tiny 2-year-old and 85-year-olds, and they all sort of engaged with it, which is beautiful, and you don't get that in a normal theatre, maybe or rarely at least. And it's lovely because there's so much time to experiment and change the piece and be flexible to the different people and environments. We did in a really busy shopping centre. We created all these people created a big forest with us and closed their eyes for a moment. It felt really lovely just to be there in stillness for a second with adverts and shops and everything around. It's a real opportunity to because you play a lot in one day. To experiment and go, today we want to be innocent trees, tomorrow we want to be vicious trees, you know,
And so do you find that when you say that the performance kind of evolves and changes, that sometimes that happens sort of almost whilst you're performing or after each performance, you sort of decide to do something different for the next day, or is it sort of just constantly?
A bit of everything you just said. So the way we prepared it was to be flexible in the moment to go with what the people are giving us, even though we had ideas. and then sometimes we would obviously chat about our performance afterwards. Sometimes we would have a little idea before, plan it. Yeah, a bit of both. I think it's good not to over rehearse it, so there's that openness still there, depending on the piece. But if it's possible to, if it's interactive, I think it's nice to keep that, to play with the people who are there at the moment rather than what you think you might do. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So just lastly, do you have, if you could give someone that was thinking about a performer that was thinking about moving to rural touring, one piece of advice, what would you give them?
To try to make the work and try it out really early on people when it's half finished, and that was so useful that we did that to get the feedback really early on from the audience. Yeah, and it's brilliant. I'd love to do it again. It was really lovely summer. People are really friendly, and yeah, it's very different to theatre performing.
Yeah.
But great.
Yeah, fantastic. Actually, sorry, this is just a bit of an ad hoc question. But what if, in terms of it being different to theatre, if you could say that sort of like the one main difference, is there more freedom or less freedom, or? I
think there's more freedom, and it kind of, depending on the piece, it can be a sort of a bit of a show, but it can also be intimate little one-to-ones with people in our walkabout. So we played last week, 2 weeks ago, and we were very old trees and talked to an elderly couple, and it just became a beautiful little chat. And then 10 minutes later, we had a kind of 30 people around us and performing to them more.
Yeah.
Show like. I think there's more freedom in outdoor rural touring.
Yeah.
Depending on the piece, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.